This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, let's start. Hope it's audible to everyone. Right. Okay, so in the last class, we have started with what? Structures. We understood how to declare the structure. Okay, and we have seen another syntax for creating a structure based on existing structure. And we have seen how to copy the data between two similar structures and dissimilar structures. We understood the concept of what a move and what move corresponding and the limitations of using what move corresponding. Okay, right. So now let us see in continuation to that. Let us see. These are all very simple concepts. Nested structures. Okay, nested structures. So just like we have nested if. Nested if means what? If within the if block. Okay. Similarly, nested structure means a structure declared inside another structure. Okay, that is the meaning of what? Nested structure. So let's see how to declare the nested structure. One second. One second, please. Just hold on. Yeah. One second, please. Yeah. So I'll give the program name Z645 program 14. Type of program is executable program. I'll save it in what? Local object. Right. So what is our requirement? We need to declare what? Nested structure. Structure within the structure. Okay. So structure within the structure. So I'll say, how do we create a structure? Data. Okay. Begin of. Okay. Data begin of. Let me give the structure name as something EMP. Okay. Data begin of EMP. And I'll declare some fields here. Employee number type I. Then another field employee number of 20 type C. Okay, so within this EMP structure, okay, within this EMP structure, let me declare another structure. So I'll say begin of what? Department. Okay, so without closing the EMP structure, I'm trying to declare what? One more structure. Begin of department. I'll declare one more field, department number type I, then department name of something 20 type C. Then I'll close the department structure. End of what? Department. Okay. Then after closing this inner structure, Okay, after closing the inner structure, let me declare one more field, employee designation of 20, type C. Then close the main structure, end of what? EMP. So this department is nothing but what? Inner structure. Inner structure, because I am declaring this department structure within another structure. Okay, done. So when I save it, let me check the syntax errors. Control F2. Yeah, I don't have any syntax errors. Okay, so how much memory is allocated here? Yesterday we have seen that uh, for structures the memory allocation is what? Continuous, means all the fields are stored one after the other. So if you assume that this is the memory allocation, okay, there's a memory allocation. What is the first structure I declared here? One second. Yeah, what is the first field here? Employee number, type I. So in ABAP, integer occupies what? 4 bytes. So assume that if you assume starting address is 100, starting address location is 100, so 100 to 104 would be the employee number. Okay, 100 to 104 would be employee number. Okay, then employee name of 20, type C. Each character occupies 1 byte. 1 into 20 is what? 20 bytes. So this is employee name. Employee name. So 104 to how many bytes? 20 bytes. So 104 to 124 would be what? Employee name. Then we are declaring one inner structure. We are starting the declaration of an inner structure. What is that inner structure? A department. So assume that this is a memory allocated for your inner structure. Okay, something like this. And my inner structure contains how many fields? Two fields, department number and what? Department name. So assume that this is department number and this is department name. Okay, so this is a overall memory allocated for your inner structure. What is the inner structure here? Department is a inner structure. Okay, so what is this? A department number, type I. Again, integer I indicates what here? Integer. So integer occupies what? 4 bytes. So 124 to what? 124 to 128 would be what? Department number. Okay, 124 to 128 would be department number. Then again department name of 20, type C, 20 bytes. So 128 to 148 you assume what? Department name. Done. Then we are closing the inner structure, and as part of outer structure I declared one more field. What is that? Employee designation of 20, type C. Okay, which is what? Character of 20. So again another 20 bytes of memory would be allocated for the employee designation. So assume 148 to what? 168 is the memory allocated for what? Employee designation. Okay, so these two, okay, department number and department name are part of what? Department structure. And employee designation, employee name, they are part of what? Employee structure. Okay, so this is the overall memory allocated for your outer structure. What is that? Employee. Now the important thing here is how do we access this field? So inner structure means a structure within the a structure declared inside another structure. So now let me try to store some data, and already we have seen yesterday, once a structure is declared, the structure fields will be initialized to what? Default values. Employee number is integer, so integer by default contains 0. Employee name is what? Character, so it will contain what? Space. Department number again 0. Department name is character, again not space. Employee designation also what? Character, it contains what? Space. These are the current default values. Now let me assign some data. How do we access the structure fields? Structure name hyphen structure field. So I'll say emp hyphen employee number. Understood? Structure name hyphen structure field. Emp hyphen employee number equal to, I'll give some value, what? Some value 1. Then emp hyphen, what is the next field here? Emp hyphen employee name equal to, I'll say something Raju, something. Okay, so emp hyphen employee name equal to Raju, and then I want to set the value for what? Department number. Okay, department number is the field of which structure? Department structure. and department structure is declared inside what? EMP structure. So suppose, okay, when I do syntax check, as of now I don't have any errors. Now I'll try to say EMP hyphen department number equal to some value what? 10. I'm trying to assign department number value as what? 10. Let's see whether this is valid or not. When I do syntax check, yeah, I got an error here. I got the syntax error. What is the error here? The data object EMP has no component called as department number. Okay, whatever we declare inside the structure, they're nothing but what? Fields. Fields are nothing but what? Components. So it is saying that the data object EMP has no component called as department number, but there is a component called as what? Department. So department number field is not the direct field of department. It is part of, sorry, department number is not the direct field of what? EMP. It is a field of department, and department is declared inside what? EMP. So if I try to say like this, it is giving me what? Syntax error. So this is giving me what? So for your reference, I'm just giving a comment here, syntax error. So how do we access that? EMP hyphen department number equal to some value 10. So the main focus here is how do we access the inner structure fields? How do we access outer structure hyphen inner structure hyphen field name? Similarly, what is the other one? Department name. So I'll say department name equal to something sales. Then what is the other field here? Employee designation, which is a direct field of what? EMP. So I'll say EMP for employee designation equal to something manager. Am I clear? So this EMP is the outer structure, department is what? Inner structure. Okay, done. Now let me just print it. Right, I'll say EMP an employee number, or let me give some text kind of thing, employee number. Done. Then EMP an employee number. Then I'll say employee name, EMP employee name. Then what else? Department number. Department number. I'll say EMP department number. Then a department name. What is that? EMP department name. Then employee what? Designation. I'll say designation. What is this? EMP what is the field? Employee designation. Okay, so save it, check no syntax error, activate. When I execute this, yeah, I got the data. So I got all the fields one after the other. I want to print them in a new line. So what you have to do? Just say what? Slash. Right, so I'll just say slash here. Done. So save it, check for the syntax error. Done. I got the data. It is not properly aligned. Okay, I want to do the proper alignment. So what I'll do is here, for each of this label, for each of this text, I will reserve some width. How do we reserve the width? As part of the right statement, I'll say what? 20. Okay, what is the meaning of that? I am reserving some 20 spaces for this particular string. That is for this particular string variable. Okay, here also I'll give what? Same 20. So that everything will have what? 20 spaces. So that you'll get it proper aligned. 20. Done. Here also I'll say 20. Done. So let me check it now. Right, so I got something like this. Okay, here also done. So I got employee number, department number, and these are characters. So already we know in ABAP numeric data types are what? Right justified. That's why in this space I'm getting this value in the right hand side. If you take these characters, we know that characters by default are what? Left justified. So this left justified and this is right justified. Done. So the main focus here is how do we declare the inner structure within the structure. Okay, and how do we access the inner structure fields? Outer structure hyphen inner structure hyphen field name. Okay, this is important. That's all. It's a very simple thing. Okay, done. Any questions in this part? Any questions? Right. Okay. So this is inner structure. Now let me go for including structures inside what? Other structures. Including structures inside other structures. Yeah, any questions? Anyone? Right. So including structures inside other structures. Done. So let me do it in the next program. So I'll go back. Once again, I'll save it in your folder. Done. So what is the requirement now? Including structure inside what? Other structures. Type of program as usual, executable program. Done. Okay. So here I'll say data begin of. Okay, data begin of department. I'll declare some fields, department number type I, and I'll declare another field, department name of 20 type C. I'll close the department. Okay, so this is the department structure I declared. So what happens here, on behalf of this structure declaration, some memory will be allocated. So assume that this is a department structure which has got what? Two fields, department number and this is department name. If you assume starting address as 100, integer occupies what? 4 bytes. So department number is integer, it occupies 4 bytes. Department name is character of 20, so 104 to 124. Okay, would be the memory allocated for what? Department name. This is the overall memory allocated for your department structure. Done. Now within the same example, I'll create another structure. Data begin of what? EMP. I'll declare some fields. Employee number type I. Okay. Employee name of 20 type C. Now what I want is in this EMP structure also, I want the same two fields, department number and what? Department name. So what I can do, I'll just declare this once again here. Okay, I'm declaring, I can declare. Okay, then let me declare another field here, employee designation of something 25 type C. Employee designation of 25 type C. Then also what? End of what? EMP. So I created what? Two different structures, department structure and what? EMP structure. So when I do syntax check, I don't have any errors. So what you have to understand here is in the EMP structure also, again I declare the same fields what? Department number and department name. It is allowing that, not an issue. But instead of doing like this, instead of redeclaring the fields once again, here in this case, we have only two fields I am declaring. But assume that here I am having some 10 fields. Okay, I want to use the same 10 fields in the EMP structure. I can declare those 10 fields once again. But instead of declaring the same fields again and again, what I can do is, instead of saying like this, okay, let me comment it, or okay, instead of redeclaring the fields, what I'll do, what is my agenda here, in the EMP structure also I want what? Same fields, department number and what? Department name. So instead of redeclaring them once again, okay, I can include them. How do we include? See here I'll say what? Include structure. Okay, include structure. Okay, include structure. What is the existing structure name here? Department. Okay, so what is the keyword I'm using here? Include structure department, let me say comma, but I'm getting some syntax error. Okay, let me check what is the error. Okay, include structure is a keyword here. So when I do syntax check, yeah, I got an error, unable to interpret what? Structure. Unable to interpret structure, possible causes of error, incorrect spelling or comma error. So this include structure is a what? It is a what? A new statement. So before we start using a new statement, we have to close the previous statement na? So what I have to do is I need to close this previous statement. How do you close it? Just you have to give what? Period. Understood? So I'm giving a period there. Then I'm saying include structure department. Once this is completed, once this statement is completed, you close that statement by using what? Period, that is dot. Then I need to close my main structure na EMP. So since I have ended the previous statement, again here you need to start with what? Data keyword. Again I need to start with what? Data keyword. Employee designation of 20. Am I clear? So, what I repeat once again, include structure is a keyword used for including a structure inside what? Another structure. As of now, what I am doing, I am including the local structure. I'm including the local structure. Local structure means what? A structure which is available within the same object, within the same program. But I have the option to include the global structure also. So whenever I say include structure, what happens? What I'm saying here, department na, SAP will check whether this structure is available in the current program. Yes, it is available. It will include that. Okay. Suppose I'll say include structure department 10. So what happens now? It will check whether this structure is available in the local program. If it is not available in the local program, it will check whether it is available in the database. Okay, so at this stage, we don't know how to interact with the database. If it is there in the database, fine, it will include. If it is not there in the database also, obviously it will give what? Syntax error. So what I'm trying to say is, by using include structure, I can include either the local structure or global structure. What do you mean by local structure? A structure declared within the same program. Global structure means which is available in the database. It can be accessed anywhere. But at this stage, we don't know how to create the structures in the database. So now when I do syntax check, see here, what is happening? I am getting an error. The field department 10 is what? Unknown. Means it is not available locally, it is not available globally. When I say globally, in the database, that's why it is giving me what? Syntax error. Understood? So let me just close this. Include structure department. Am I clear? So what this include structure will do, it will include all the fields of the included structure in the current structure. Include structure will include all the fields of the included structure in the current structure. So what happens here? Yeah, what happens here? Already I declared the department structure. Now within the same program, I am trying to create what? One more structure. What is that? EMP structure. What is the first field here? Employee number. Okay, the first field is employee number. Next it is what? Employee name. And then you are saying what? Include structure department. So whatever the fields are there in the department structure will be included as it is in the current structure, that is in the EMP structure. Then what is the other last field here? Employee designation. So here, what are the field names now? The first field is employee number, this is employee name, and this is what? Department number, and this is department name, and this is employee designation. Again, if you assume starting address as 200, employee number is integer, so it occupies 4 bytes. Employee name I declared as character of 20, so 204 to 224. Then you are including what? Department structure. What is the first field in the department structure? Department name number, which is integer, so it occupies what? 4 bytes, so 224 to 228. Then again, department name of 20 type C, 228 to 248. Then again, employee designation of 25 type C. So 248 to something 273 would be what? employee designation. This is the overall memory allocated for what? EMP structure. So what is the advantage of this one here? Instead of redeclaring the fields once again, if you are interested to include if you are interested to include all the fields of an existing structure inside another structure, I can do it in only one statement by using what? Include structure. Assume that department structure has got 10 fields, for example. Assume department structure has got 10 fields. Out of 10 fields, I want to use only 8 fields in the EMP structure. So at that time, we need to declare that 8 fields once again. I cannot say include structure. When do we go for include structure? When we are sure to use all the fields of an existing structure, then only we have to include that, include the whole structure. And this included structure can be either local or what? Global. And whenever we include, the fields of the included structure becomes part of what? Current structure. So when I say becomes part of current structure means, how do we access now? See, I'll say EMPF an employee number equal to something 5. Then what? EMPF an employee name equal to, I'll say some value. Then EMP hyphen, yeah, EMP hyphen, you are included the department structure na, which has got what? Two fields, department number and what? Department name. So they become part of what? EMP. Okay, they become part of EMP. So here I can directly access. Okay, I'll give some value, EMP hyphen department name equal to something, and then what? EMP hyphen employee designation equal to what? Manager. Okay, let me just print it. Employee number, then EMP hyphen what? Employee name, then again EMP hyphen department number, EMP hyphen department name, and next EMP hyphen what? Employee designation. So when I execute this, then I got the data: employee number, employee name, department number, department name, and what? Location. So here the output is not important. We are trying to understand the reusability. Reusability means instead of declaring the fields once again, I can include the existing structure in the other structure, and that existing structure can be a local or what? Global. Right? So any questions here? Done. Okay, so this is your what? This is your including the structure. 1 second, please. Okay, done. So this is about the included structures. So we understood how to declare the structure. How to declare by using what? Data, begin and what? End of syntax. Okay. There is another way of declaring the structure, which is the recommended way. Okay, so yesterday what we have done, we are declaring the structure something like this: data, begin of, structure name, field 1, field 2, n number of fields. Okay, and we have seen how to copy the data within two structures. We understood the limitation of using what? Move corresponding. And just now we have seen nested structure and what? Including the structures. Okay, now let us see standard syntax for declaring what? Structure. Okay, so far we are using data, begin of and end of. Okay, now the recommended way, or in most of the projects, the structure, I mean to say structure is also called as what? Work area. Okay, it is declared by using this syntax. What is the first step here? Create the types declaration with the required fields. So let me do that. So now onwards, we will be following this syntax only. Standard syntax for declaring the structures. Done. So what is that first step you have to do? We need to create the types declaration with the required field. So first of all, what you have to do? whenever you want to create a structure, we should have an idea what fields you have to declare, what data types you have to give, what field names you have to give. Okay, so based on that only we'll create the structure. Okay, so what I'll do here, I'll say types. Okay, I'm using what keyword? Types keyword. So far, for declaring the variables or for declaring the structure, I'm using what? Data keyword. Now I'm using what? Types keyword. So types begin off. Okay, begin off. What is this type name? Type name, I can give any name. Let me directly give emp, but already we know it is recommend we need to follow what coding standards. Just like parameter variable, we are starting with what p underscore. Okay, variables we are starting with v underscore. Similarly, types declaration, I will start with what ty underscore. Okay, in some projects, okay, in some projects they may start with what t underscore. Again, depends on project to project. We need to check the manual related to coding standards, and based on that we need to develop the code. So I'll say types begin off. I'll go for what ty underscore, any meaningful name. So since I want employee fields, I'll give the type name of the ty underscore emp. Let me declare the fields. Employee number type I, then what employee name of 20, type C. Then I'll declare another field employee designation of something 15, type what C, type C, and I'll close this. End of what type name. What is the type name I gave? ty underscore emp. Done. So if you, instead of declaring by using types keyword, if I use data keyword, what happens? Memory will be allocated and all these structure fields are stored one after the other. That is if you are using what data keyword. Data keyword will allocate the memory. But types keyword will not allocate any memory. Okay, types keyword, it just defines this particular data type. So types keyword is used for creating user defined data type. Okay, so far we are working with what standard data types, integer, character, string, all those things comes under what standard data types. Similarly, if you want to create your own data type, user defined data type, we use what keyword? Types keyword. So by using this types keyword, I created a user defined data type. What is the name of that? ty underscore emp, which can accommodate how many fields? 3 fields. Done. And this types keyword will only provide the template. Types keyword will only provide the template. It doesn't allocate any memory. It doesn't allocate any memory. So if the memory is not allocated, I cannot store the data. Na? So how do we check whether the memory is allocated or not? Now what I'll do, assume this is declared by using data keyword. Okay, if you declare by using data keyword, I can directly access. Na? So I'll try to say here ty underscore emp hyphen, what is the field name? Employee number equal to, I'll say something 1. This is very much valid if you declare the same thing by using what? Data keyword. So if I declare by using data keyword, it is considered as what structure. And how do we access the structure fields? By using what? Structure name hyphen field name. So when I do syntax check, right, I don't have any errors because the memory is allocated. I can assign the data, but I'll declare this by using what? Types keyword. Types keyword will only provide the template, will only tell you what are the field names, what is the sequence of the fields, what is the data type of the field. So when I do syntax check, right, I'm getting an error now. What is that? The field ty underscore emp hyphen employee number is unknown. Okay, the field ty underscore emp hyphen employee number is unknown. So I cannot assign the data because memory will not be allocated. So this is going to give me what? Syntax error. Okay, it is giving me what? Syntax error. So how do we access those types declaration now? This I'm calling it as what? Types declaration. Nothing but a structure. Anything which is a collection of fields is nothing but what? Structure. But in this case, memory is not allocated because we are declaring by using what? Types keyword. So how do we make use of this structure now? How do we make use of this types declaration? We need to create instance of this template. We need to create a variable based on this particular types declaration. How do we do it? Now I'll use what? Data keyword. Okay, data keyword. I need to give the structure name. So I'll give the structure name as something what? Generally, you'll structure is nothing but what? Work area. You'll start the work area with what? WA. Okay, also data W underscore EMP1, some name. Any name I can give. Simply I can say XYZ also, doesn't matter. But in general, the structures, the work areas, you'll start with what keyword? WA. In some projects, they must start with LS to indicate that is a local structure. In some projects, they will start with what? GS to indicate that is a global structure. Okay, so according to the project coding standards, we have to use the appropriate naming conventions. I'll go for what? WA underscore some meaningful name. EMP1 type. What is the type name now? TY underscore EMP. So I'll also type TY underscore EMP. Now the memory is allocated because I'm using what keyword? Data keyword. Okay, so this will only provide the template. It only provides a structure. Based on the template, we are instantiating, means I am creating a variable. Now the memory is allocated. How much memory is allocated depends on the fields in your types declaration. So employee number is 4 bytes, this is 20 bytes, this is 15 bytes. All the fields are stored one after the other. So once you declare the structure, I can start accessing that. Employee number is equal to something, then W underscore EMP1 hyphen employee name equal to something Raju. W underscore EMP1 hyphen employee designation equal to something. Okay, done. Understood. Then let me print it, right? For our understanding, I'll just give a string here. W underscore EMP1 structure. Whatever you give in single quotes will be displayed as it is. Okay. Let me print the fields. How do we access the fields? W underscore EMP1 hyphen employee number. W underscore EMP1 hyphen employee name. Okay. W underscore EMP1 hyphen employee designation. So save it, check for the syntax, done. When I execute, yes, I got the data. So this is a standard way for declaring the structure. What is the standard way? You create the types declaration with the required fields. Create the types declaration with the required fields. Based on the types declaration, based on the template, you can create any number of work areas. I mean to say structures. Okay, this is one structure. Now similarly, I'll create another structure. Data W underscore EMP2 type what? TY underscore EMP means based on the same template, based on the same types declaration, I can create n number of work areas. So I'm trying to create one more work area. So let me just print it now. So as of now, you will have a default values. Okay, so let me just say U line, underline, right? I'm creating one more work area structure based on your type declaration. Okay, so here I'll just print it. EMP2 hyphen employee number, employee name. As of now, not assigned any data, so obviously you'll get what? Default values, zeros and what? Spaces. So what I'm trying to show is, once a template is available, I can create what? Any number of instances. I mean to say, I can create any number of work areas, variables. Now I'll say, already we know this. What is that? W underscore EMP2. I'm assigning W underscore EMP1. Okay, let me print it now. W underscore EMP2 structure after assigning what? W underscore EMP1. Some message. Let me print it now. So when I execute, both are what? Similar. Both are created based on what? Same types declaration. So the number of fields, the sequence of fields, the data type of the fields, everything is what? Same. So when I execute, I'll get the data 6 Raju and what? Director. Okay, so now onwards, I'll create the structure like this because this is the recommended way for creating structure in most of the projects. Okay, still in many projects still people are using this syntax also. Fine, no problem. Project to project we have to check the syntax, we have to check the guidelines, and we have to declare them. But this is the recommended way. Once you create the template, based on the template I can create any number of instances. I mean to say any number of variables, any number of structures. Okay, any questions, please ask. Any questions? Done. Okay, so we understood the basic concept related to what structures. So I summarize everything. When do we go for structures? Whenever you want to store some interrelated data, okay, we'll go for what structures. That is, whenever you want to store a record kind of information, we'll go for what structures. Okay, like employee data, customer data, vendor data, material data. So all this data would be what interrelated. All this data will be interrelated. Okay, so in those cases we'll go for what structures. And we have seen how to copy the data between what two structures. Okay, but that is by using assignment operator and by using what move statement. And we understood that both assignment operator and move statement is what same. And we have seen move corresponding also. Okay, move corresponding, what it I can use assignment and move statement only when the corresponding data types between the two structures are what same. If one of the data type is not matching, it will give a syntax error. And move corresponding, we understood what it will do. Move corresponding will check for what matching field names. It doesn't check for what data type. It doesn't check for any sequence. And we understood the limitation of what move corresponding. What is the limitation? It will decrease the performance. Why it will decrease the performance? When you're copying the data between two structures, what happens internally? Each field of the source structure will be compared with what all the fields of what target structure. Okay, this comparison will be what time consuming. Okay, this comparison will be time consuming, so obviously it will degrade the performance. What is the other limitation of move corresponding? When you are using move corresponding, it only checks for what matching field names. It doesn't check for the data types of those fields. So if the data types are not type compatible, it may lead to what runtime error. So every time it will not lead to runtime error. Whenever the data types are not type compatible, it will lead to what runtime error. That is the reason it is recommended to minimize the usage of what move corresponding. And today we are seeing nested structure, declaring the structure inside another structure. Okay, so in that case, what is the focus? How do we access the inner structure fields? We need to refer outer structure hyphen inner structure hyphen field name. And we are seeing including the structures. How do we include one structure inside what another structure? Okay, that is done by using what keyword? Include structure. By using that include structure keyword, I can include a local structure or a global structure. Local structure means a structure which is declared in the current object, current program. Global structure means which is available in the database. What is the default behavior? First, it will check whether the included structure is available in the locally within the program. If it is not available within the program, it checks whether that is available in the database. If it is not available in the database also, it will give what syntax error. Then we have seen the standard way of declaring the structure. What is the standard way? First, we need to create the types declaration with the required fields. Types declaration allows us to create what our own data type, user defined data type. It only provides a template of the fields, doesn't allocate any memory. So once a template is available, I can create any number of instances, any number of variables based on that particular types declaration. Okay, and we have seen how to declare and how to access the fields. Right. Now let us go to another small concept, field symbols. Right. So just try to understand how do we declare the normal variables. If you want to declare integer, character, or any other data type, we'll use what keyword? Data keyword. Okay. So let me say data x type I. How do we initialize it? by using the keyword what? Value. Value I'll give something what? 10. So I'm declaring the variable as well as initializing the variable. Then I'll declare one special variable called as field symbol variable. How do we declare the field symbol variable? We have to use the keyword what? Field symbols. Okay. I'll give the field symbol name as ABC. Okay. So what is the field symbol variable name I am giving? ABC. This is my normal integer variable. This is my field symbol variable. Let me check whether I'll get any syntax error. When I do syntax check, yes, I got an error. Field symbol names must begin with less than and end with what? Greater than. Okay, so if you declare like this, it seems that this is not valid. So this is giving me what? Syntax error. Okay, so how do you declare now? It seems that you have to start with what? Less than and end with what? Greater than. So what is the meaning? Field symbol variable is always enclosed in what? Angular brackets. Done. Now let me try to print the value of x and y. So I'll say, for your information, I'll say x is, what is the variable name? X. Or generally how do you declare the variables? V underscore. V underscore. So let me follow that standard. Okay, so v underscore x is v underscore x. Done. And in the next line I'll try to print the field symbol variable also. What is that? ABC, single quotes, ABC is, okay, ABC is, what is the variable name? ABC. So in case of field symbol, I have not assigned any data so far. So when I do syntax check, I don't have any errors. When I execute, yes, v underscore x is, what is the initial value I gave? 10. ABC is having nothing. As of now, nothing is there in the ABC. So you can observe this while declaring the field symbol variable. Did I mention any data type? No. So a field symbol variable is capable of storing any kind of data. It can store integer, character, date, whatever it is. I can store any kind of data. So how do we store here? Now I want to store x value inside what? ABC. So generally, how do we assign a variable to another variable? You will say what? Something like this. You will say something like this. Understood? We are assigning x to what? ABC. Understood? This is the way you assign the one variable to another variable. Let me check what happens here. Save, check it. I don't have any syntax errors. I'll activate this. Okay. Let me try to execute. When I try to execute, I got a runtime error. What is the runtime error? Assignment error. Assignment error. Field symbol ABC was to assign a new value, but this field is at least partly protected against changes. So if you scroll down, what is the line which is leading to runtime error? The screen is called as what? Runtime error. So if you scroll down, yeah, this is the 10th line where it is leading to what? Runtime error. So what you have to understand is, whenever you are assigning a variable to the field symbol, we should not use assignment operator. So if I use like this, what is that I am getting? Runtime error. Understood? When you're practicing, you uncomment and practice. Then only you'll get the runtime error. Okay. So what you have to do? We have to use what keyword? Assign keyword. I'll say assign v underscore x to, what is the field symbol variable name? ABC. Let me print it now. I'll reprint it again. Done. So I assigned that. I assign is a keyword you have to use. When I execute, yes, I got v underscore x as 10. ABC is also what? 10. So once we assign a variable to the field symbol, this is called as referenced variable. Once we assign a variable to the field symbol, we call this as a referenced variable. Once we assign, a link will be established between these two variables. A link will be established between this referenced variable and what? Field symbol variable. So once a link is maintained, any changes made to the data of one variable will automatically reflect what? Other variable. Suppose now I'll say v underscore x equal to 20. I'm just changing the value of what? X. I'm not changing the value of ABC. What is the previous value assigned to ABC earlier? 10. We are assigning X. When X was 10, I assigned that. Now I'm changing that X value. Let me check whether it will reflect both or not. I'm not reassigning. Once you assign, a link will be established. So when I execute now, see, when I execute, done, what I got, v underscore x is 20, abc is also what, 20. Let me do reverse. I'll say abc is equal to 30. Let me print it now. I'm changing field symbol variable. Okay, so when I execute this, done. I got what, 30 and what, 30. So what is the understanding? Once we assign a variable to the field symbol, a link will be established between that variable, that reference variable and a field symbol, so that any changes made to the data of one variable will automatically reflect what, other variable. And I already told, a field symbol is capable of storing what, any data. As of now, what value we have assigned, integer na? Now within the same context, within the same program, let me declare one character here, or let me declare one string. I'll say v underscore str type string. I'll say value gens of technologies. Okay, so this time I'll assign the v underscore str value. How do we assign v underscore str to same field symbol? Understood? While declaring field symbol, I have not assigned, I should not specify any data type. It is capable of storing any kind of what, data. So I'm assigning now. Let me print it now. So the link is established between what now, str and abc, means the link is broken between x and abc now. It will point to what, str now. Let me try to print all these three values. V underscore x I'll print. I'll also print what, string also. What is this? V underscore str is v underscore str. Okay, let me execute now. Yeah, what happened? X remains 30. What is the last value of x? 30. ABC is what now? Gens of technologies. STR is obviously what? Gens of technologies. Means into the same field symbol variable, I am able to store a variable of different data type. Initially, I have assigned integer. Now I am assigning what? String. Understood? So the link is broken between the earlier two variables. Now the link is established between str and what? ABC. Now I'll change the value of str. I'll say v underscore str is equal to, I'll say something gens of systems. Okay, let me say uline, right? So I'm changing the value of str now. I'll reprint all the three now. What happened now? X remains 30. X remains 30. ABC is changed to gens of system. STR is changed to gens of system. Okay, so this is one of the purpose of field symbol. Okay, going forward we'll be using this field symbol in many places. So what is a field symbol? It is a special data structure. It is a special variable which is capable of storing any kind of data. A field symbol variable must always be enclosed in what, angular brackets, and it is declared by using what keyword? Field symbols keyword. Whenever you want to assign a variable value to the field symbol, we must use what, assign keyword. Once a variable is assigned to the field symbol, a pointer link will be established between the variable and what, field symbol. So any changes made to either of the variables will reflect what, both the variable values. Understood? So this is the points. These are some of the basic points related to what, field symbols. We will be using this field symbol in different ways going forward. This is only the basic syntax. Any questions, please ask. Done. So we are done with the structures and all the basic things. Tomorrow onwards, we'll be starting either with internal tables or with dictionary objects. Okay, I'll be starting with either of these two topics, either internal tables or dictionary structures. I'll decide that tomorrow only. Okay, right? Internal tables or dictionary objects, I'll start from tomorrow onwards. Any questions for today? Okay, so Cheddar then, so I'll wind off. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, is it audible to everyone? Okay. Yeah, I'm having some problem in the meeting. Okay, so in case if it gets disconnected, I'll continue on Monday. Okay, so I'm having issue from my end only. So in case if it gets disconnected, I'll continue on Monday. Okay, right. Okay, right. So we have seen the basics part. There are some more things I need to discuss in the basic things. So if you take our selection screen, okay, so we know that selection screen is used for what? Reading what? User input. Okay, so related to the selection screen, we have seen different screen elements. Like we have checkbox, we have seen checkboxes, we have seen what? Radio buttons. Okay, and we have seen how to design push buttons. Okay, and we have seen how to design block, begin of block and what? End of block. Okay, so there are the different things we have seen. Okay, so today let me just quickly cover, as the time is already half an hour is passed off. Okay, so I'll discuss one a new topic. I'll start from Monday. Okay, so today I'll discuss about a concept called a selection screen tabbed block. Okay, selection screen tabbed block. Okay, already we have seen block, it's a simple block. Now we are going to discuss what tabbed block. So what exactly is this tabbed block means? A tabbed block is a collection of what? Tab buttons. A tabbed block is a collection of tab buttons. Means suppose if I go to some T code, so in our, if I go to some what SC11, don't worry about this, we'll discuss that later on. I'll just give some table name. Okay, I'll just give some table name. I gave it as K11. So a tabbed block is nothing but collection of a tab button. So you can see this is nothing but called as tabbed block. Okay, so we have different tabs here. If I click on this tab, I'm getting the screen. If I click on this tab, I'm getting another screen. This screen, we call it as what? Subscreen. Okay, so I repeat, a selection screen tabbed block is a collection of what? Tab buttons. Okay, each tab is associated with what? A subscreen. Each tab is associated with a subscreen. Okay, so I want the requirement something like this. So assume that this is your selection screen. Okay, so on this selection screen, okay, I just want to take one tabbed block. So assume this is a tabbed block, and in this tabbed block I want some two tab buttons. Okay, assume that this is something, I want to give the text as something addition, just a simple tab. Then here I want to take another tab like something welcome message. So each tab is what? Each tab is a what? Associated with what? A subscreen. So under this tab, okay, I need to take one subscreen, and as part of the second tab also I need to take out another subscreen. Okay, so this is my subscreen 1. Okay, and this is your subscreen 2. Okay, subscreen means what? As a name itself suggests, subscreen is nothing but a part of a screen. So what is the overall requirement? My tabbed block should contain what? Two tab buttons, and each tab should have what? Its own subscreen. Okay, so this is nothing but the tabbed block. So in this case, I want two tab buttons. So here what we are going to learn is how to design the tab block with the tab buttons, and how to design the subscreens, and how to associate the subscreens with the tab buttons. Okay, and this subscreens can contain what? any element. Suppose here I'll take simple what, some two input fields I'll take, or some three input fields, something like this. Okay, I want some text kind of thing here, like I'll take what, first number, then here let me take it as what, second number, then this I'll take it as what, addition. Okay, then here I'll take the push buttons. Let me take it as addition. So let me take it as only one push button. Then here in the second subscreen, I just want to what, display some text. Welcome to second subscreen. Okay, so here I, as part of the subscreen, I can what, associate any of the elements. Okay, so here I'm associating the input fields. As part of the second tab button, I'm associating some text. Okay, so let's see how to design the tabbed block. So when do we go for tabbed block? Instead of placing all the elements, instead of placing all the elements in a single screen, we can logically separate the fields. Assume that this tab will show me the employee data, this tab will show me the department data, another tab will show me the customer data. So when you want to segregate the logically related fields, instead of placing them, I can place them in single screen also, but what happened, the length of the screen will increase, the user needs to scroll. So instead of providing that scroll bars, all those things, what we'll do is, as part of the single screen only, we'll associate what, multiple subscreens. Okay, and each subscreen will have some logically related fields. Right, so let's see how to design this selection screen tabbed block. Okay, so this is nothing but a tabbed block kind of thing. So let me go back. So I'll go to ABAP editor SC38. Right, I'll give the object name as Z what, 645 18. Yeah, selection screen tabbed block. I'll choose the type of program is what, executable program. Let me save it in the local object. Done. So somewhere 3-4 days back, we have seen how to design a simple block. Okay, so how the simple block will look, this is nothing but a simple block. Okay, but I want a tabbed block. So for that, we have to use the statement selection screen. Try to understand, begin of what, tabbed block. Okay, selection screen, begin of tabbed block, begin of tabbed block. For the tabbed block, you have to give some name. Every element on the screen should have what, some name. So I'll give the name as something TB1. You can give any name. Selection screen, begin of tabbed block, then I'll say for some 5 lines. So I'll tell you what is the meaning of this 5 lines. 5 lines means the height of each subscreen, the height of each subscreen is how many lines? 5 lines. That is the meaning of what, 5 lines. Okay, something like this. Okay, right, so I give 5 lines, then you need to close the block. So I'll say selection screen, end of block. What is the block name? TB1. So when you are beginning, you have to say tabbed block. When you are closing, simply you have to say what, end of block. What is the name of the tabbed block? TB1 is the name of the tabbed block. Okay, let me save it. Check for the syntax error, no errors, activate. So I have just designed the tabbed block, but my tabbed block doesn't have any tab buttons. Tabbed block is a collection of tab buttons. Okay, but I don't have any tab buttons. Let's see what happens when I execute this. When I say F8, I'm trying to execute that. Good. I got a runtime error. I got a runtime error. What is the runtime error I got? Load program not found. Load program not found. It is saying program so and so is not found. So can anyone tell me why I got this runtime error? Why I got this runtime error? Anyone? It is giving an error saying that load program not found. So if you scroll down, If you see the error analysis also, on account of a branch in the program, okay, a program should be loaded. Program so and so is not in the library, however. Okay, so can anyone tell me what is the problem? Why we are getting the runtime error? What is the analysis? Yes, anyone? Anyone? Jason, Nilima, Partha.
Declaration, nothing is there.
Sorry?
Normally, you declare something, right? Some parameters or some data type.
Okay, but how does it matter here? See, simple understanding. What you are trying to do on the selection screen, you are trying to design a tabbed block. Okay, tabbed block should contain what? Tab buttons. Okay, for example, let me open another session. Just observe here. Okay, I'll go to a T code called as SC11. Try to understand. I'll go to a T code called as SC11 ABAP dictionary. Here I'll provide some table name. Let me give the table name as something VBAK. Some table name VBAK. I'll click on display. Yeah, so you can observe here, I got a screen in which we are having the tabbed block. By default, which tab is active here? Fields tab is active. Understood? The moment the screen is loaded, by default, Fields tab is active, and that active tab is associated with what? A subscreen. Is associated with a subscreen. Similarly, let me go back. I'll just give another structure called as screen structure. Okay, I'll give another structure called a screen structure. Let me display. Yeah, here also you can see, observe here, I got a screen where we have the tabbed block. Which tab is active here? Components tab is active. So what is the understanding? Whenever you are trying to load a screen which contains tabbed block, that particular screen should contain one default tab button. Understood? So I repeat once again. Okay, in one of the T code SC11, if I give any table name, suppose if I give LFA1 as a table name, okay, I'll click on display. Yeah. What is the tab which is active by default? Fields tab is active by default. Okay. Similarly, let me go back. I'll give something screen here. Okay. If I display this, again, what is the tab active? Component. So what is the understanding? Whenever you are loading a screen which contains what? Tabbed block, you have to make one of the tab as what? Active tab. It can be first tab or second tab or third tab, whatever it is. And that active tab should be associated with what? A subscreen. And that subscreen we have to design it in a program. That subscreen we have to design it in a program. But in our context, if you observe, we are designing the tabbed block which doesn't have any tab button, so it is unable to understand which tab it has to activate by default. It is unable to understand which subscreen should be associated with that particular tab. It is unable to understand in which program that particular subscreen is available. That's why we are getting the runtime error. So what is the understanding? Whenever you are trying to load a screen containing tabbed block, one of the tab should be made what? Active. And that active tab should be associated, should be linked with a subscreen, and that subscreen should be designed in a program. It can be in the current program or it can be in some external program. So in this case, since we don't have any tab button, since SAP is unable to understand which tab should be active by default, it is giving what? Runtime error. So what is our agenda now? I need to design what? Two tab buttons. Somewhere in the last week, I believe, we have seen how to design push buttons. Push buttons. What is the difference between a push button and a tab button? Tab button always sits on tabbed block. This is nothing but tab button. Whereas push button means this is called as what? Push button. Push button directly sits on the screen. Whereas tab button is a part of what? Tabbed block. So here I'll say, let me design two tabs. selection screen. If you want to design the push button, we use the keyword what? Push button. Now I want the tab button. So I'll say tab as something 15. Okay, tab of something 15. I'll give the name of the tab button as what? T1. The name of the tab button is T1, and we know about what function codes. Last week we have seen we have a concept called as function code. So for each of these tab buttons, we have two tab buttons. I need to associate some function code. What is the purpose of function code? It can be used to identify which element was interacted in the runtime. So how do we associate the function code? We need to use addition called as what? User command followed by some name. Okay, so let me check whether I'll get any errors. I'll give space here. Done. Understood? If I don't give space, okay, when I save it, when I'm trying to do the syntax check, I got an error. Okay, it is saying what tab space val is expected, not tab of what 15. So I need to give some space, it seems. Let me give space. So save it, check it, no errors. Done. Similarly, let me design one more tab button. So I'll say in the same tab block, I'll design one more tab button. Let me give the name of the tab button as what T2, and I'll give the function code as what FC2. Done. So we have designed what two tab buttons. The names of the tab buttons are T1 and T2, and the function codes are what FC1 and what FC2. So now again, when I try to execute this, let's see what happens. So now what we are doing, we are designing two tab buttons, but we are not telling which tab is active, and we are not telling what subscreen should be linked with what tab. So we are not providing that information. So let me try to execute. I'll say F8. Good, I got the similar error. What? Load program not found. It is unable to understand from which program it has to load that particular subscreen. Okay, so what I need to do now, in order to avoid that runtime error, okay, we have designed two tab buttons. Since we have two tab buttons, we require what? Two subscreens. Okay, if I'm having 10 tab buttons, I require what? 10 subscreens. So now we need to focus on what? How to design the subscreen. So after closing the block here, let me design a subscreen. Selection screen, begin of screen. So already we know selection screen number is always what? 1000 na? Selection screen number, whenever I use parameter statement, it will generate the selection screen. That selection screen will always have the number as what? 1000. Okay, so when you are designing the subscreens, this subscreens also should have what? Some numbers. Every screen should have what? Some number. Assume that I'll give the subscreen 1 number as 100. I'll give the subscreen 2 number as what? Something what? 200. Okay, so here I'll say selection screen, begin of screen. I have to give the screen number 100. Any number between what? 1 to 9999, except 1000. You can take other numbers, because 1000 is reserved for what? Selection screen. So selection screen, begin of screen 100. Okay, as what? As a subscreen. This is a syntax for designing the subscreen. Then I'll say selection screen, end of screen what? 100. Done. So what is the subscreen number? 100 is the subscreen number. Okay, done. And if you take this one here, what I want here, I want overall how many lines? Some 4 lines here. Okay, the first line should have one label and one input field. Again, label and input field, label and input field, and I should have one button or two buttons. Okay, so what I'll do is, as part of my second subscreen, already we know how to construct lines. Selection screen, begin of line. Okay, here also I'll say selection screen, end of line. Okay, selection screen, begin of line, and what? End of line. Okay, otherwise let us not go for these things. Here also I just want to display some message. Okay, I want to give some title, so I want something like this. Just observe, I don't want all these things. Let us make it very simple. Any of you know how to design the push buttons, all those things. So here, one second please. Yeah, so what I want is, I just want to display what? Uh, some static text I want to display. So here I want to give the names of this, labels of this tab buttons as I want to give the names of these tab buttons as tab 1, and here I want to give the name label as what, tab 2. Here I just want to give a message, welcome to what subscreen 1. Here also I want to give one static message, welcome to what subscreen 2. So this is my simple requirements. Let us not focus on the input fields, all those things. Anyhow, we know all those things. Done. So in my first subscreen, I want some static message. So how do we design the text? Already we know selection screen comment. Okay, from where you want to start this label? Comment in the sense label. I want to start from 8th position. Done. How many spaces you want to reserve for that label? I'll give something 30, and that variable should have some name. I'll give the name as what, lb1. Okay, so as part of my subscreen 100, I am designing only one element. What is that element? Comment is nothing but what, label. Okay, what is this 8 of 30 indicates? From the left hand side of the screen, starting from the 8th position, reserve how many spaces? 30 spaces. Whatever we enclose in this parenthesis is nothing but the width, and this indicates the starting position. And what is the name of that comment variable? lb1. You can give any name. Done. Let me design another subscreen. So I'll say, yeah, selection screen. I'll give the subscreen second subscreen number as what, 200. Here also I want a comment kind of thing, only 8 of 30. I'll give the variable name as lb2, and end of screen 200. Done. So I repeat, I have designed a tabbed block. What is the name of the tabbed block? TB1. And that tabbed block contains what, two tab buttons. What are the names of the tab buttons? T1 and T2. What is the function codes? FC1 and what, FC2. So since we have two tab buttons, I require two subscreens. How do we design the selections in subscreen? This is the syntax. Selection screen, begin of screen, some number as a subscreen. Between begin of screen and end of screen, I can create any of the elements. I can create checkboxes, radio buttons, push buttons, input fields, whatever the elements you want, you can design. I am going for some label, comment. So how do you design the comment? You have to provide the position and the width and some variable name. Similarly, I am doing it for what, second subscreen also, that is 200. Done. But as of now, we have not associated these subscreens with our tab buttons. I have not linked these subscreens with the tab button. So when I execute, let's see what happens. Good. Again, I got the same error, runtime error. Okay, why we are getting the error? Because we have not instructed which subscreen should be associated with which tab, and we have not instructed which tab should be active by default. That is the reason still it is giving the runtime error. So what is the next job now? I have to make one of the tab as what, active tab. Means whenever my selection screen is displayed, either you have to make tab 1 as a default active tab, or tab 2 as what, active tab. So I, in this case, in this example, I want to make second tab as what, active. Means the moment the selection screen is displayed, second tab should be active. So let's see how to do it. So how do we achieve that functionality? Already again refer to the previous classes. Okay, we have a event called as what, initialization event. Okay, whenever a selection screen is about to display, whenever a selection screen is about to display, the first event triggered is what, initialization event. Okay, when do we handle the initialization event? If you want to perform any default activity, that default activity you'll do it as part of what, initialization event. So where do we handle the events? At the end of the program. So here I'll say initialization. Understood? Why I'm handling this event? Because I know that this is the first event raised by SAP, first event triggered by SAP whenever a selection screen is about to load. As part of this event, we can perform the default activities. So what is the default activity I want to perform? I want to make second tab to be active. Okay, right. So these tabs, these tab buttons are part of tabbed block now. What is the name of the tabbed block? TB1 is the name of the tabbed block. TB1 is the name of the tabbed block. So what I have to do is, as part of tabbed block has got some properties. Tabbed block has got some properties. So I'll say TB1, nothing but name of the tab block, hyphen. There's a property called as active tab. Understood? So why I am saying TB1-active tab? Because active tab is a property of tabbed block. Since it is a property of the tabbed block, I need to refer to that property with the name of the tabbed blocks. Okay, TB1-active tab equal to which tab you want to activate by default. Second tab I want to activate by default. Second tab I want to activate by default. What is the function code I gave for second tab? FC2 is a function code. So here I will say what? FC2. You have to give this function code in uppercase. Even though you have designed this in lowercase, when I'm associating, you have to give it in what? Uppercase. So save it, check it, done. Okay, you are making the second tab as what? Active. So this active tab should be associated with the subscreen. This active tab should be associated with the subscreen. Which subscreen you want to associate here? Second subscreen. What is my second subscreen number? 200. So again, for a tabbed block, we have one property called as dynr, which is going to hold the screen number. Okay, which screen you want to associate? 200. Okay, done. Then TB1 hyphen, we have to tell SAP in which program this particular 200 subscreen is designed. So there is another property for tabbed block called as what? TROG. All these three are what? Properties of tabbed block equal to this 200 is designed, this 200 is available in which program? Current program. What is that program? Z645 program 18. So here I'll say in single quotes in uppercase, you have to give like this. Okay, understood? I can refer like this, or anyhow we are referring to the current program. When you are referring to the current program, we have one system field called as syrep which refers to what? Current program. Syrep refers to what? Current program. As part of ABAP programming language, we have some system fields. System fields means the fields which are predefined. The values for those fields will be given by what? SAP itself. So syrep will hold what? Current program name. So instead of hard coding the program name, I can refer to the system field. Done. Let me save it, check it, activate this. When I execute, let's see what happens. Good. I don't have any runtime error. You can observe now which tab is active by default here. Second tab is active. I want some labels for that now. What are the labels I want? Tab 1 and tab 2. So what are the names of the tab buttons? T1 and what? T2. So in initialization event only, I'll say T1 is equal to any text whatever you want, you give it. Then T2 is equal to what? What? Tab 2. Okay, let me save it, check for the syntax, done. When I execute, yes, I got the tabs. Okay, but you can see second tab is having the subscreen 200. I don't cursor is blinking here because in the subscreen 200 we have designed one label now, starting from 8th position. We are reserving how many spaces? 30 spaces. That's why this is blinking. So how do we associate the text? What is the label variable name I give? LB2. So same thing. Okay, I'll say LB1 is equal to what? Welcome to what? Something. Welcome to subscreen 1, and LB2 is equal to, I'll say welcome to what? Subscreen 2. Done. Let me check it now. When I execute, yes, which one is active by default? Second one is active by default, and that active tab is associated with the what? Subscreen 200. How it is associated? Because in the initialization event we have instructed that. Okay, you make the second tab as active. What is this? Function code of the second tab, and which subscreen should be associated? Second subscreen, that is 200. And we have to tell SAP in which program this 200 is available. So I gave it as what? Program equal to syrep, which refers to what? Current program. I can say like this. Okay, or I can say like this, Z645 program 18. Let me check what happens here. I hope we will not get any error. I'll get the same thing. Done. Suppose I'll give it as 19 here. So what I'm telling SAP, I'm telling SAP that you activate the second tab and associate this subscreen 200, which is designed in the program 19. Program 19 itself is not available. So obviously I should get some runtime error. Let me check what is the runtime error I'll get when I execute. Good. I got a runtime error. What is that? Load program not found. What is that? Program so and so 19 is not found. Oh, it's clear to everyone. Okay, what you can do is you can design that program and design that subscreen, but at this stage we don't have that, so I'll give what 18 only, or I can refer to the system field. Done. So we have made second tab as what active tab. Now if I click on this, what should happen? If I click on this, this tab should be made active, and I have to associate what subscreen 1. So let me click on this. As of now nothing is happening. Okay, it is activating, but I am not associate, I am unable to associate the subscreen one. So already we know, whenever we click on the push buttons, what is the event triggered at selection screen. Similarly, whenever the user selects a tab buttons on the selection screen, SAP will trigger what event at selection screen event. So I need to handle what at selection screen event. Please refer to the last week sessions. Okay, at selection screen is the event triggered whenever the user clicks on what tab buttons or push buttons, right? So how do we identify the selected button, how do you identify the interacted button? For these two tab buttons, what is the function code I have attached? FC1 and what FC2. Already we know this function codes, these function codes will go and sit in the system field what SciUcom. So I'll say case what SciUcom. What is this? When FC1 do so and so, when FC2 do so and so. End for case is what? End case. End for case is end case. So what is the logic I have tried here? When FC1 means if the user clicks on the first tab button, what is the function code of the first tab button? FC1. Na? Okay, this FC1 will be stored in the system field called as what? SciUcom. Okay, so I'm comparing with that. So what I have to do, if the user clicks on the first tab button, I have to activate the tab. Now, how do we activate? Again, tb1-active tab equal to what? FC1. Okay, and which screen you have to associate 100. So d1 equal to what? 100. And where is this screen 100 is available? In the same program now. So I'll just say what sci rep id. Again, if the user clicks on the second tab button, what happens? When FC2, same thing. What is this? Active tab equal to FC2. What is the subscreen number? 200, which is available in the current program. No error. So what is the main thing you have to understand is, whenever the user clicks on the tab buttons on the selection screen tabbed block, what is the event triggered? At selection screen is the event triggered. So when I execute this, see now, this is my tab 2. I'll click on tab 1. Yes, I got what? Welcome to subscreen 1. Again, I'll click on tab 2. I got it. I'll click on tab 1. Yes, I got. Understood? Let me try to debug this quickly. So in my program, how many events I've handled? Two events I've handled. Initialization event and what? At selection screen event. Let me put the breakpoints for both the events. I'll put the cursor here. I'll put the cursor on the application toolbar. We have what? Set session breakpoint. So I'll put the cursor. I'm setting the breakpoint in the initialization event. I'll also put the breakpoint in what? At selection screen event. So I gave two breakpoints. So the moment you start the execution now, when I say F8 now, what is the first event triggered? Initialization is the event triggered. Means the control should stop in what? Initialization event. So I'll say F8. Done. Good. You can see here, I gave breakpoints in both initialization event as well as what? At selection screen event. But where it is stopping? Initialization. Because before showing the selection screen to the user, what is the event triggered by SAP? First event triggered initialization. So what logic we wrote in the initialization event? We are trying to activate the second tab by default associated with the subscreen 200, which is available in the current program. Okay. So if you want to debug here, you have to press F5, or if you want to come out of that, I'll say F8. Done. Okay, so before showing the selection screen to the user, what is the event triggered? Initialization event. Done. Now in the runtime, this is nothing but runtime. Now I'll click on this tab 1. So whenever I click on the tab button on the tabbed block, what is the event triggered? At selection screen. And what happens? The function code of this interacted button will be captured in the system field what? SciUcom. Understood? Whenever I click on the tab button, SAP will raise the event called as what? At selection screen, and the function code of that interacted button will be captured in the system field what? Sai UCOM. So let me click on this. Is it stopping there? Let me click. Good. It is stopping where? At selection screen event. I clicked on which button? First tab button. What is the function code I gave in my program for that first tab button? FC1. That FC1 will go and sit in what system field? SciUCOM. So when I double click on this, what is the value of SciUCOM? FC1. It is always captured in uppercase. In your program, while designing, even if you give it in lowercase, in the runtime, when it is captured in the system field, you must give it in what? Uppercase only. Okay, you have to compare with what? Uppercase. So case I you come when FC1. I'll say F5. Yes, this when condition is satisfied. It will enter inside that. What you are trying to do here, we are activating the first tab, associating the subscreen 100, and we are telling SAP you search for this 100 subscreen in which program? In the current program. Okay, so I'll say F8. Done. That's all. I got the tab 1 with that associated subscreen. Again, if I click on this, what is the event triggered again? At selection screen. What is the function code of the second tab? FC2 will be captured in the system field what? Sci UCOM. So if you see Sci UCOM, FC2. So when I say F5 now, which when statement is satisfying? What is the current value of Sci UCOM? FC2. So control directly jumps to what? The second when statement. So when I say F5, directly the control jumping to what? Appropriate when block. This logic gets executed. I'm activating the tab, associating the subscreen 200, which is available in the current program, but Sci rep ID. Done. That's it. So I got it. Right. So this is a way to design the selection screen tabbed block with the tab buttons. And this is a way to design the subscreens and associate those subscreens with the what? Tab buttons. And another point you have to focus is what are the properties of the tabbed block? Three properties. What are they? Active tab, DYNR, and what? PROG. Since these are the properties of tabbed block, I must access it with the name of the tabbed block, which is TB1 here. Any question, please ask me. Okay, so I'll stop for today. See, I'll start the fresh topic from Monday. Monday onwards, I'll start with either internal tables or dictionary objects. So those who are joined the course late also, they can easily understand it is a completely independent topic. Understood. So whatever we discussed in the last 8 to 9 session, you can refer them in your free time. So what are the new topic we start from Monday? It's a fresh topic which is not dependent much on the previous topics. Okay, it's a completely different one. Okay, but practice these sessions also so that you'll have it. What it be useful for you in the future sessions. Done. Any other questions? Please ask me. So next session again will be on what? Monday. No class tomorrow. Again we'll meet on Monday only around 6:30, 6:40. Chalo then. So if you don't have any questions, I'll wind off. We'll continue on Monday. Okay, but practice all these things. Monday onwards, we'll start with the new topics. Okay, chalo.
This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, let's start. Okay. So far we have discussed the basic part of ABAP programming. Like we understood different keywords like data statement, parameter statement, write statement, and different additions related to those keywords and related to selection screen. We have seen how to work with checkboxes, radio buttons, push buttons, block, tabbed block, Okay, and we have seen different events like initialization event, at selection screen event, start of selection event. Okay, all those things. Okay, now in continuation to this, today we'll start with internal tables. Okay, so let us understand the purpose of what internal tables. So just here, so this internal tables, this is similar to result set in case of Java. Okay, so those who know Java, in Java we call it as what? Result set. And if you take .NET, it is similar to what? Data set. Okay, so in ABAP we use what? Internal table. Similar to result set in Java, in ABAP we use what? Internal tables. So let us understand the purpose of internal tables. Okay, so see here, just observe. So in SAP, whatever the data we capture, that will be stored in what? Database. Understood? Every ERP has got what? A database. Okay, or every software contains what? Database. Whatever the data we deal, the data would be stored in what? Database. So inside the database, you will have what? Database tables. Okay, so database tables will be resided in what? Database server, and the purpose of database tables is to store the data permanently in the form of what? Rows and what? Columns. So similarly, SAP ERP also contains what? Database. It can be any database. Okay, it can be Oracle database, SQL Server, MySQL, whatever it is. So assume that for SAP also you'll have one database for storing the data permanently. So as part of database server, what you will have? Database tables, and database tables will store the data what? Permanently. So assume that here we have many tables, database table 1, 2, 3, like that. We have hundreds and thousands of database tables, and these database tables contain some data, huge amount of data. So what is our requirement? We need to develop reports based on that particular data. Okay, whatever the data is there in the database, it's a huge amount of data. So we need to generate the reports based upon that data, so that by analyzing the report, we can take some decisions related to what? Business. Okay, so as part of this ABAP also, we'll be developing what? Reports. So just try to understand this. So the purpose of internal table is, whenever I run my ABAP program, whenever I execute my program, so see the sequence of steps here. Whenever I execute my program, what happens? See the arrow pointer. An internal table gets created in the runtime. Runtime in the sense what? During program execution. We call it as what? Runtime. So if you observe this internal table, where it gets created in the application server. So it is temporary, means the lifetime of this internal table is only during the program execution, whereas database table is what? Permanent. Okay, internal table is what? Temporary, means the lifetime and scope of the internal table is only during the program execution. So whenever I execute my program, an internal table should be created in the applications. Application means what? Where the actual calculations will happening. Okay, the entire business logic will be executed in what? Application server. So whenever I run my ABAP program, an internal table should be created. Okay, so assume that this internal table also will can hold what? Multiple records. Just like database table can store multiple records, internal table also can store what? Multiple records. Done. This is my first step. The moment I execute the program, internal table should be created. What is the second step here? I'll be sending the request to my database server for reading the data. I may be reading the data from one or more database table. So I'll be sending the request to what? Database server. So whenever I send the request for retrieving the data, okay, we will retrieve the data. You can see arrow pointer, third step. That retrieved data will come and sit in what? Internal table. The retrieved data will be stored inside what? Internal table. Then what you will do, once the data is there in the internal table, I will process the data. In the sense, I will delete the unnecessary data, or I'll modify the data, or I may insert new data, or I'll do some calculations on my data. So that process, or I'll sort the data. So that processed data, I'll update it back to what database. So once the data is processed in the internal table, what I can do, this processed data, I can update it back to what database, or this processed data we need to display it to the user in the form of what report. Report is nothing but what, a summary of what data. So where I'll be displaying the report on the output screen, nothing but what, list processing screen. Okay, so hope it's clear. So the purpose of internal table is, whatever the data is there in my database tables, this data is what permanent, and you'll have huge amount of what data. So instead of doing the processing directly on the database server, when I say processing, I need to modify the data, or I need to insert some new data, or I need to do some calculations. So instead of doing that directly on the database server, we will never do the calculations on what database server. Okay, I'm talking about what the current scenario. Okay, so what you will do, instead of doing the calculations on the database server, instead of doing the processing on database server, we will read the data from database tables into a temporary table called as what, internal table, where this internal table is available in the application server in the runtime. Whenever I execute the program, internal table gets what, created. So this data, retrieve data, I'll store it in the internal table. Once the data is stored in the internal table, I'll do the processing on that. I'll do some calculations, I'll delete some unnecessary data, I'll sort the data. Okay, I'll clear some data. So all kinds of processing I'll do. Once the data is processed in the internal table, that processed data, I can update it back to our database, or will be displaying that particular data in the form of report to the user. So by analyzing this report, we can interpret the data, we can take some business related decisions. That is a job of what, internal table. So I can say in short, internal table is a temporary table created in the application server. Okay, it is a temporary table created in the application server. Why I am saying it as temporary table, because the lifetime of that internal table is only during the program execution. Once a program execution is finished, the memory allocated for your internal table will be destroyed. So when it is destroyed, the data in the internal table also will be what, destroyed. So before destroying it, what you have to do, we need to update that processed data back to database, or you will display it to the user in the form of what, report. Okay, that is the main job of internal table. So in Java environment, we call this is similar to what, result set. In .NET we call it as what, data set. In ABAP we call it as what, internal table. Any questions in this part, please ask me. Any questions? Okay, so at this stage, we don't know how to interact with the database. Okay, from ABAP, we don't know how to interact with the database. In the next 3-4 days, we'll be seeing how to interact with the database. So till that time, what I'll do is, I will create the internal table data manually. Manual in the sense, I'll create the internal table, then I'll fill the data in the internal table manually. But the general purpose of internal table is what? To store the data retrieved from what? Database. But since we don't know how to read it from the database at this particular point of time, we'll see how to fill the data manually, how to process that particular data with a different statement. So later on, after 3-4 days, we'll see how to interact with what, database also. Okay, so let's see some examples on the internal tables. So these internal tables we can classify into what, three types. Okay, we can classify it as what basically two types, indexed and what non-indexed. Again, indexed are again classified into what two types, standard internal table and what sorted, and non-indexed is what hash internal table. So overall will have three types of internal tables: standard internal table, sorted internal table, and what hash internal table. Again, in the next 1 week we'll understand the difference between all these things. Okay, so by default, if you don't specify the type of internal table, SAP will understand that as what standard internal table. If you don't mention explicitly saying that internal table is standard or sorted or hash, SAP will take it as what standard internal table. By default, it is standard. Okay, done. So let's see some examples on how to do this. So what is my basic requirement? So before we again will not blindly create the internal table. Okay, when you are creating the internal table, the programmer should have an idea, the developer should have an idea what data you need to store it in the internal table. Okay, what data we are going to retrieve from the database tables, are we going to retrieve it from one table or multiple tables? Okay, so with that knowledge only we need to create the internal table. But as I told you, since we don't know how to communicate with the database at this particular point of time, I will create and fill the internal table manually. So assume that I want to store some employee data. Okay, in my internal table I want to store the employee data. So let's see how to declare the internal table. So I'll go to ABAP editor. Standard internal table. So by default, what is the internal table type? Standard internal table. So I'll choose the type of program as what? Executable program. I'll save it in the local objects. Done. So what is my requirement? I want to create an internal table which has to store the employee data. So when I say employee data, again we should have the idea what data you want to store. Like I want to store employee number, employee name, employee salary, employee department number, department name, designation, like that. We have n number of data related to what employee. In this context, I want to store some three fields like employee number, employee name, and employee designation. Right. So I believe in the last class we have seen the standard syntax, for declaring what internal table. What is the standard syntax? You need to create what types declaration with the required fields. Okay, so types declaration will provide the template. Based on the template, we can create what work area. Similarly, here also, what is the standard way of again internal table can be declared in many ways. First of all, let us directly go to the standard way or the recommended way or the latest way to declare what internal tables. There are some old syntaxes also which are absolute, means which is suggested not to be used. Okay, in the future versions we should not use it. So directly we'll focus on what the recommended way to declare the internal table. So for that we need to use what keyword here also. First you have to create the template. You have to create the template structure. How do you create? Types begin off, you can give any name. Last class I told we generally start with what types declaration will start with what ty. Since I want to capture employee data, I'll give it as what ty underscore emp. Then what are the fields I want? Employee number, type I. Okay, then I'll say employee name of 20, type what? C. Then I'll say employee designation of something 25, type what? C. Employee designation of 25, type C. Done. I'll close the types declaration. End of what? ty underscore em. Done. Okay, so I created the template. So this types keyword already we have seen. Whenever you declare anything by using types keyword, will not allocate any memory, means I cannot store any data in that because memory will not be allocated. Types keyword will only provide the template. So it has, here we have declared one template which is capable of holding how many fields? Three fields: employee number, employee name, and employee designation. So once a types declaration is available, based on this types declaration, I can create any number of internal tables and any number of what work areas. Okay. Again, when you create the internal tables, I repeat, when you create the internal tables, I can create the internal table either with header or without header. Okay, internal table can be created either with header or without header. Always it is recommended to create the internal table without header. Okay, so for the time being, let me create with what? With header. Later on we'll see without header. So how do you create the internal with header? Just like work area, for internal table also we use what? Data keyword. Data keyword. Then here I'll say, generally you'll start the internal with what? T underscore, or you'll start with LT underscore, or you'll start with GT underscore, or in some projects you'll start with what? ITAB, something like this. Okay, project to project the coding standards will be different. I'll give the name as something T underscore EMP1, some name T underscore EMP1, type table of ty underscore emp. So remember, now onwards, whenever we use table of keyword, you have to understand that as what? Internal table. If I don't use this table of keyword, it is nothing but what? Work area. Work area means what? It can store only what? One record. But I want an internal table. So type table of ty underscore emp. Okay, I want to create a with header. So I'll say what? With header line. With header line. So what is the meaning of that? I am creating an internal table with header, and while creating it, I am not specifying whether it is standard, sorted, or hashed. If you don't specify anything, by default it takes it as what? Standard internal table. So here also it will take it as standard internal table. So I can do like this, or I'll say, or I'll just give comment here, sorry, or I can set type what? Standard table of. Even if I don't use standard keyword, by default it will take it as what? Standard table. Understood? So I'm declaring one standard internal table. I can do like this, or I'll directly say what? Type table of. Both are what? Same. Either standard table of or only what? Table of. Done. So I created the internal table what? With header. With header. So what is the understanding now? What is the understanding? My internal table will contain what? Two sections now. One is body section, another is what? Header section. Okay, so this is the body of the internal table and this is the header of the internal table. Okay, what is the name of this body of the internal table? Since my internal table is with header, header name is also t underscore emp, body name is also what? T underscore emp. How many fields are there? Three fields are there. So assume this is employee number, and assume this is employee name, employee designation. Again, this is employee number and employee designation. So if you observe the difference here, body can store what? Multiple records, whereas header is nothing but what? Work area. Okay, so this is nothing but what? Default header. Default header means which is getting created along with the internal table. So I'll call it as default header, or default what? Work area, or I'll call it as what? Default line type. Okay, or I'll call it as what? Default row type. Am I clear? So I can call it with what? Different terminology. This work area, this header area, I can call it as what? Header or work area or line type or what? Row type. Okay, so this is my internal table. So if you see the diagram here, this is body and this is your header. Body can accumulate multiple records, whereas header can store only what? Single record. Header is nothing but what? Like a work area, and this area you assume this is what? Body area, where it can store what? Multiple records. Hope it's clear up to this. I created the internal table with header, default header. Done. So what is my requirement now? Generally, In the internal table, we'll store the data retrieved from what? Database. But at this stage, we don't know that, so I have to fill it manually. So when you are, if you are pulling it from the database, if you are retrieving it from the database, the data retrieved will come and sit directly in the body area. This is nothing but the body. But if you are filling it manually, I cannot directly store it in the body. If you are filling it manually, first you have to assign it to work area. From work area, we have to copy it to what? Body. So what I'll do now, here I'll say, try to understand. Here I'll say, what clear, again, before we store the data, you clear the old data. The recommended process is what? Before we store any data in any variable, it can be a normal variable, work area, or internal table, you clear the old data, then you store the new data. How do you clear the old data? You'll say clear t underscore what? emp1. Acha, now you can see here, I am saying t underscore emp1, right? So my internal table is with header na? So if I use clear statement, this will refer to header area. It will refer to what? Header area. Okay, this clear statement will refer to header area. So clears what now? Default header data, default header area. Okay, done. So assume that it is nothing is there as of now. You'll have default values. What is the default values here? Employee number is integer, so 0. What is this? Space. And this also designation also character, it will what? Space. Done. Now I'll say t underscore emp1 hyphen. Understood? How do we access the internal table name hyphen field name equal to some data, then t underscore emp1 hyphen employee name equal to something Raju, t underscore emp1 hyphen employee designation equal to something what? Manager. So when you assign the data like this, this data will always go and sit in the header area. So what is this now? The previous data, that is the default data, would be overwritten. What is this? 4, and assume this is something what? Raju, and assume this is something what? Manager, something like this. Okay, so the data is copied to what? Header, right? So what I have to do, I have to copy this data to the body na, to the internal table na. So how do you do it? You'll say append what? T underscore emp1, append t underscore emp1. What this append statement will do? Append statement will copy the data from the header to the end of the internal table. Append statement will copy the data from what? Excuse me, please. Yeah, sorry. Append statement will copy the data from header to what? End of the internal table. So when I say internal table, I am referring to the body area. Okay. So this is nothing but the beginning and end. Na? As of now, there is no data in the internal table. So this is nothing but beginning and what? End. So the data is copied. So this would be 4. What is this? Raju, and this is what? Manager. So what you have to understand, append statement is copying the data from header to the end of the internal table. It is copying the data from the header to the end of the internal table, something like this. What you are saying here? Append. Okay, append. What is the internal table? T underscore what? emp1. Append statement default behavior is what? Copies the data from header to the end of the internal table. So the data is copied. Done. Now I have to store one more record now. Internal table is capable of storing what? Multiple records. So what I'll do again, I'll say clear t underscore emp1. What this will do again? It clears the header. It clears the header. Since my internal table is with header, this clear statement as of now will refer to what? Header. So this should be cleared now. Understood? If you don't clear also, when you assign a new record, automatically old record is what? Cleared. But good programming practice is you clear it explicitly, otherwise you will have some issues going forward. You'll understand that in couple of days. The process is what? You clear it explicitly and then store the new data. Now let me store the new data here. I'll say, okay, I'm assigning one more data, something like this, 14 Krishna and director. So what happens? Header can store only one record na? So the data is stored here. What is this? 14. Assume this is Krishna and assume this is something what? Director. 14 Krishna director. What you have to do now? Again you have to copy it now. So it is append T underscore what? EMP1. Again the data is copied from what? Header to the end of the internal. This is nothing but the end now. So 14 and this should be something Krishna and this should be something what? Director. Okay. So again append statement has copied the current record from header to the end of the internal table. Append will always point to what? End of the internal table. Let me assign one more record. Something 3 Pawan and what? Employee. So again this data would be copied in will be first assigned to what? Header only. So this would be overwritten, it will be cleared and stored in the new record. What is this? 3 something Pawan and something what? Employee. Okay, done. So I got the data. Again you are saying append, so append will copy to the end of the internal table. So 3, what is this? Pawan and this is something what? Employee. So again append statement has copied the data from header to the end of the internal table. Done, it is copied. Okay, now let me store one more record. Employee number 5. I'll give this as something Ashok and something what? Manager. So again it will be cleared. Since is the first example, I'm discussing each and every point here. So I'll say what is this? 5. What is that name? Ashok and something what? Manager. So the data would be what? Assigned to header. From header it is appended to the end of the internal table. So 5 Ashok and what? What is this? Manager. 5 Ashok and what? Manager. So the data is copied from the header to the end of the internal table. Done. So as of now, my internal table contains what? 4 records. 4 records. And header will contain the last record. What is the last record assigned here? 5 Ashok and what? Manager. Done. Let me check any syntax errors are there. When I do syntax check, no errors. I'll do control F2, no errors. Okay, no syntax error. Done. Now let me try to print. So at this stage, my internal table contains how many records? 4 records. My internal table contains 4 records, and work area at any point of time will contain only what? 1 record. When I say work area, I am referring to the header. I am referring to the header. Achha, one more thing. The index of the internal table, starts from what? 1. Means first record will have the index value as what? 1, 2, 3, something 4. So I can refer to this index value by referring to a system field called as SAP. Already we know we have some system fields in ABAP like rep ID, which refers to what? Program name, datum, which refers to date, UGIT, which refers to the time, uname, which refers to the login username. Like that, we have a system field called as SAP, which will refer to the index position in the internal table. So I'll come to that point. So, but remember, the index starts from what? 1 year. Done. Now I want to print the data. So how do you print the data? Generally by using what? Write statement. Right. Let's see what happens. Okay. What is okay? See this. I created the internal table with header. Na? What is the name of the header? Name of I'm sorry. The name of the header is also what? T underscore EMP1. And what else? The name of the internal table body is also what? T underscore EMP1. Understood? Header name is also same. The body of the internal is also what? Same. T underscore EMP1. Let me try to print. Let's see what happens. I'll say write T underscore EMP1 hyphen employee number, T underscore EMP1 hyphen employee name, T underscore EMP1 hyphen employee designation. So I'm trying to print the data. Okay. So save it, check for the syntax error, activate this. Understood? So when I'm trying to print the data, let's see what data I'll get. When I execute, what I got the data that 5 Ashok manager. So what is the meaning? When I'm using the write statement always refers to the header. always refers to the header of the internal table. What is the current record in the header? I'm going to say work area 5 Ashok and what? Manager. So I got what? So and so. So what is the understanding? Refers to what? Header. Understood? Refers to header, and here for understanding, I'll just give a message. Data in what? Internal table default header. This only for understanding. I'm just giving the message. So when I execute, yes, I got the data as what 5 Ashok and manager. But what is my agenda? I want to display the data from the body of the internal table. Okay, so internal table means what? It may have one record or 1 lakh records. We don't know the length of the internal table. We don't know how many records are there in the internal table. So what I have to do, what is my requirement? I want to refer to the complete records, all the records. Means I have to start from first record and continue till what? Last record. I don't know how many records are there. Okay. So what I have to do, in the last week we have discussed about some basic looping statements like while, end while, do, and do, all those things. Okay. Similarly, here I'll say, I'll just give a message, data in internal table body. Okay, so what I have to do, in order to print each and every record, from the body, I need to copy, I need to populate each record from body to what? Header. I need to populate each record from body to header, because for displaying we have to use write statement. Write statement can only refer to the header. It cannot directly refer to the body. So what I have to do, I have to use a looping statement. Loop at what? T underscore emp1, and here also what? End loop. Am I clear? Loop at T underscore emp1 and end loop. So what this loop will do, loop statement always starts from what? First record. So what is the first record? This only, na? It will copy this record from body to the end of the internal, sorry, from the body to the header. Okay, so what is the first record here? For Raju manager. It will, that record is copied from body to what? Header. So this record will be overwritten with the populated record. What is this? For Raju, and what is this? Manager. Done. It is successfully copied from what? Body to what? Header. So it will enter the loop. Understood? When it will enter the loop, if the record is successfully copied from the body to the header. So what is the current record in the header? For Raju and Manager. How do you refer to that? By using what? Write statement. So let me print it. This only, now I'm just printing it. Okay, write statement I'm using, then it will print that particular record from the header. Since I'm using the looping statement, what is the concept of looping statement? The statements in the loop will keep on execute until the condition remains what? True. So since we are using the loop statement, automatically cursor goes to second record, since it's the loop statement. So what happened now? The second record is copied from what? Body to what? Header. Body to header. So what is the second record copied? 14 Krishna and what? Director. 14 Krishna and director. So this is, what is this? 14, and this is something Krishna, and this is something what? Director. Something like this. The data is copied from body to what? Header. Successfully copied. Na? Again it will enter the loop. It will print this 14 Krishna director. Do we have any further records to loop? Yes. How many times this loop is executed? Depending on the number of records in your internal table. In my case, how many records are there? 4 records are there. So 4 times the loop would be executed. So this time what data is populated? What is the data? 3, Pawan and employee will be copied from body to what? Header. 3, Pawan and something what? Employee. Something like this. 3, Pawan and what? Employee. Okay, done. Since it is successfully copied, enter the loop. Again I'm printing it. Since we are in the looping statement, automatically cursor goes to the next record. The next record is also what? Populated. Next record is also populated. What is the next record? 5 Ashok and manager. Again this will be overwritten with this final record. What is this? 5 and Ashok and what? Something what? Manager. Okay, then it will print it. It will enter the print it. Again loop. Do we have any further records to loop here? No. Since there are no further records to populate, loop statement execution will fail. When it fails, it will not enter the loop. It will come out of the loop. That's all. So this loop is internally iterated for how many times? 4 times. Means it depends on the number of records in the internal table. So when I execute, Done. I got the data 4, 14, 3, 5, and so on. So I got the data. Understood? I got the data. Right? 1 second. Okay. So this is the data. Let me debug this. Okay, let us understand how it is executing internally. So these things comes under what? Declarations, variable declarations. I cannot debug. I can debug only what? Executable statement. So I'll put the breakpoint here. I'm putting the breakpoint here on the 12th line. Put the cursor, set the breakpoint, set session breakpoint. So I'll click on this. Breakpoint has been what? Set. Breakpoint has been set. So when I execute, when I say execute, done. So if you see here, this is my internal table t underscore emp1. It is not showing anything. We have a button here. What is this? Table. If you go to table, it will show you the content. So when I click on this, if you see t underscore emp1, yeah, this cap symbol indicates what? Header. What is the default data in the header? You'll have the default value for integer and characters. No? Integers is 0, characters is what? Space. And you can see this area is nothing but the body area where my mouse is moving. Doesn't have any data. The body doesn't have any data, only the header contains what? Default data. So what I am saying, clear na? So clear means it will clear the data. As of now, there is nothing to clear. It contains only the default value, so nothing will be cleared. So how do you execute one statement at a time? Fi. So when I say fi, done. Yeah, okay. So the data is, default data will be like that only. Done. Now what you are doing, we are assigning the data na. Since my internal table is with header, this assignment is always assigned where? In the header only, not in the body. So if you see the data, let me double click. Employee number is 0 by default, that is header. It is referring to what? Header. Employee name is what? As of now, space. Designation is also what? Space. Okay, it is referring to the default address. Now when I say fi, what happens? This 0 will be overwritten with what? 4. Means here this 0 is overwritten with what? 4 in the header only. Okay, so when I say fi, done. So I got what? 4. Understood? Observe this here also 4. And let me say fi. I got Raju. Fi, what is this? Manager. So the data is assigned to what? Header. Now what you are saying, you are saying append t underscore emp1. What this append will do, it copies the data from the header to the end of the internal table. Copies the data from the header to the end of the internal table. Okay, so what is the end of the internal table? This one in a year, nothing is there in the internal table. So when I say fi, done. It has made a copy of the header record and populated to the internal table. What is the index of the first record? What is the index? Index always starts from what? 1. So I'm saying clear what? Clear t underscore emp 1. So when I say clear here, I'm not saying whether it has to clear header or body, but what is the understanding? Because in this case, both header name and body name are what? Same. Header name is also t underscore emp1. Body name is also what? T underscore emp1. So when I say clear so and so, what is the default intelligence? Since this is an internal table with a default header, it will all the clear statement will refer to what? Header only. So let me say fi. When I say fi, what is the data in the header? 4 Raji and Mary. It will be cleared. It will set back to default values. So let me say fi. Yes, I got the default value 0 space and space. Then again I'm saying what? Fi. So 0 is origin with 14 and Krishna and something what? Director. Again you are saying append. Append will copy to the end. Like this, I'll say clear again, done, done. Like this, we are copying all the 4 records. So the data is copied from header to the end of the internal table. Internal table can store any number of records. As of now, I'm storing what? Only 4 records. Done. Then I'm using the write statement to display the data. Write statement always refers to the header. Na? What is the current record in the header? 5 Ashok and what? Man, this is nothing but the header header symbol. So when I say fi, Done. It might have displayed something. So see here, what is the data displayed in the output as of now? 5 Ashok and what? Manager. So I got the data. Now I'm trying to print the data of the body. Data in what? Internal table body. What I'm doing here? Loop at t underscore emp1. What this loop will do? It copies the data. It copies the data from what? Body to what? Header. What is the first record in the body of the internal table? 4 Raju and manager. This record, it will make a copy. Loop always starts from what? First record. It will make a copy and copies that record to the header. Means what is the data in the header? 5 Ashok and manager. So this 5 Ashok manager is overwritten with 4 Raju manager. So when it is successfully copied, when it is successfully populated from body to header, it will enter the loop. I'll say F5. Then you can see it is successfully copied to the header. I am printing it. Write statement always refers to header. Na? What is the current record in the header? 4 Raju and manager. So when I say F5, yes, I might have got the data. What is this? 4 Raju and manager. Since we are using the looping statement, automatically cursor goes to second record internally. It goes to second record. And again, I'm saying loops. What is the second record here? 14 Krishna and director. It will copy that F5. Okay, like that it will repeat for how many iterations? 4 iterations, because we are having what? 4 records. So now 5 is also copied. 5 Ashok and manager done. I got up to what? 5 records. Sorry, I got up to what? 4 records. All the records are displayed now. Now I am saying loop at t and t underscore mp. We don't have any further records to loop after this employee number 5. So loop is failed. When the loop is failed, it will not enter the loop. It will come out of the loop. So when I say F5, see the arrow pointer? It is coming out of the looping statement. That's all. When I say F8 now, I got the result so and so. Okay, so what we understood from this is I created what? Standard internal table with header. What is standard sorted hash? Again, we'll discuss that going forward. But the main focus here is internal table with header. We understood how to declare the internal table, how to store the data in the internal table. Append statement will always copy the data to the end of the internal table, and the index of the internal table always starts from what? 1. How do we refer to the index? Can I print that index value? Yes. In the loop statement itself, these are my internal table fields. Along with these internal table fields, I'll say comma. I will use a system field called as what? Tabix. Tabix will refer to what? Index position in the internal table. So first time when the loop is executed, it has populated which record? First record. So it will print what? 1. Like that, every time it will increment by what? 1. Let me print it now. When I say F8, yes, what is that Tabix value I got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So the index of the internal table always starts from what? 1. Any questions in this part? Please ask me. Any questions? Vasant, Srikant, Rajesh, Chinna, Nilima, Latika. Fine. So others, right. So if there are no questions, fine. So if there are 1 lakh records, how many times the loop is iterated? 1 lakh times. 1 lakh times, starting from first record to last record. So now what I'll do is, I don't want to populate all the records. I want to populate only from first record to third record. First record to third record. Means the index of the first record is what? 1. Third record means what is the index? 3. So what I'll do here, again let me redisplay. I'll just use a separator. Data in internal table, for your understanding, I'll say from index 1 to 3. Okay, I'll not print tabix, not required. So what I am doing here, loop at t underscore emp, I'll say from 1 to 3. What is the understanding here? From 1 to 3 means we are telling SAP, or from index 2 to 4 I'll say. Index 2 to 4. So here I'll tell SAP that to populate the data from what? Second record to fourth record. Means it will ignore the first record. Let me check whether you'll get the data or not. Yes, you can see it has ignored what? 4 Raju manager. Second time when I'm looping, I got it from what? Second record to fourth record. So when do we go for this? When you are sure about the source and target index, you have to mention that. Source index and what? Target index. I got the data. Now I want to display only those records wherever the designation is manager. I want to display only those records wherever the designation is what? Manager. So what I'll do, let me loop it again. I don't know which records is having managers, but I know the condition that employee designation should be what? Manager. Data internal table body with designation, some meaningful messaging with the designation as what? Managers. Okay, so how do we give it? See now, loop at t underscore emp where condition, where on which field you want to give the condition designation. What is the name of the field? Emp desig equal to I'll say manager. I'll say manager. I'll say manager. So see what happens. Check it, activate this. When I execute, what happened? I didn't got any data. Why? If you see the data in my internal table, m is in uppercase, so data is what? Case sensitive. Data is what? Case sensitive. Data is what? Case sensitive. Am I clear? So what I'll do here, I'll say I don't know how it is stored, so I'll say where emp designation equal to manager or emp designation equal to what? Manager. Okay, I'm giving like this. So save it, check it, activate or condition. Or means what? If either of the condition is satisfied, I'll get the data. Again, I didn't got any data. Okay, so I'll give one more condition. What is this? Or let me give it in next line otherwise. Okay, or so what I'm trying to show is data is case sensitive. In whichever case you have stored, in the same case you have to access. So if either of these three conditions are satisfied, it will populate the data from body to what? Internal table. So when I execute, yes, how many records are there with that condition? 2 records. What are the employee numbers? 4 and what? 5. So what I'm trying to show is I can use a plain loop statement like this. I can use the loop statement based on source and target index. I can use the loop statement with where condition. I can use this what? Logical operator called as what? Or. Or means what? If either of the condition is satisfied, that record will be populated. Okay, so we understood about the loop statement. Now what I want to count the number of records in the internal table. How many records are there in the internal table? So I'll say describe table. Understood? Describe table. What is the internal table name? T underscore emp1. What this describe statement will do, it will count the number of records in the internal table and stores a count value in a system field called as site-fill. Understood? I repeat, describe statement will count the number of records in the internal table and stores a count value in the system field what? Site-fill. So here I'll say right what? Number of records in T underscore emp1 is, okay, something is, what is that? Site-fill is what? Site-fill. Okay, so this describe and site-fill I have to use in combination. I have to use one after the other. I repeat, describe table. What this statement will do, it will count the number of records in the internal table and stores a count value in a system field called as what? Site-fill. So use the right statement to display that value. First we use describe and then immediately after that you have to use site-fill. Let me check what is the count I'll get. Yes, number of records in what? T underscore emp1 is what? 4. Overall how many records are there? 4 records are there. So I got the data. Okay. Now earlier we understood that when I use clear statement has cleared the header. Na? It has cleared the header part. Okay. Now I'll say clear T underscore emp1, it clears the header. Na? I don't want to clear the header. I want to clear the body. So my header name and body name are what? Same. The header name is also T underscore emp1. Body name is also what? T underscore emp1. So I want to clear the body. So I'll say what? Clear T underscore what? emp1. I have to use this symbol. I have to use this particular symbol. This clears what? Clears what? Body of the internal table. So what I'll do? Let me check. Again I'll count. Again I'll count. Describe table T underscore emp1. Okay, or okay, describe table T underscore emp1. Number of records in T underscore emp1 after clear is only for understanding. I'm giving this message after clear. Understood? Before clearing, it is showing the count as what? 4. Now I'm using clear. I'm using this symbol. This symbol refers to what? Body. So when I execute, good. Number of records in T underscore emp1 after clear is what? 0. So at this stage, the count is what? 0. Okay. Now I'll do one thing. Before I clear this, I'll create one more internal table. I'll create one more internal table. How do you create one more internal table? Already the template is available. Based on this template only, I want to create the internal table. I want to clear the internal table. So now this time what I'll do, I'll create the internal table without header. Earlier I created with header, na? So I'll say data what? T underscore em. Okay, just I'll comment this. Don't get confused. I'll comment this for the timing. Data T underscore emp2. Okay, how do you create? Type table of what is the type name? T underscore emp. So what is the change here? Here when I'm declaring the first internal table, I said with header. But whereas here I'm not saying what? With header. So what happens here? This is nothing but what? Internal table without what? Default header. Without default header. So what happens now? This entire thing, this entire thing, this is your internal table. One more internal table gets created. What is this internal table? T underscore what? EMP2. This is T underscore EMP2. Again, this has got what? Same structure now. It is also created based on same types declaration. This is the body of the second internal table which doesn't have its own header. Remember. And as of now, there is no data in T underscore EMP2. Let me quickly count it. Okay, describe table T underscore emp2. Number of records in what? T underscore emp2 is what? Psi tfill. Let me save it, check it, no errors, done. When I execute, yeah, you can see in T underscore emp1 is when I use describe, I got 4. In T underscore emp2 is what? 0. Understood? Because as of now, my second internal is what? Empty. Hope it's clear. It is T underscore emp1 has got 4 records. T underscore emp2 is what? 0 records. Now what I'll do, I'll say both the internal tables are similar, na? T underscore emp2 is created based on the same types declaration. T underscore emp1 is also created on the same types declaration. So the structure of the both the internals are what? Same. Means the number of fields, the field names, everything is what? Same. Now I want to copy the data between these two internal tables. How do you copy? There are multiple ways. Let me show you one of the way. Append the lines of T underscore emp1 to what? T underscore emp2. Append lines of T underscore emp1 to what? T underscore emp2. Let me count it now. So append lines, what it will do? It copies the data from what? T underscore emp1 to emp2. T underscore emp1 has got how many records? 4 records. Those 4 records are copied to what? T underscore emp2. Am I clear? So this entire data, okay, okay, will be copied to what? Will be copied to the body of the second internal table, because I'm using what statement? Append lines of what? T underscore emp1 to T underscore emp2. That is what the job of what? Append lines. Append lines of T underscore emp1 to T underscore emp2. Let me count it now. So I should get 4. Yes, I got in T underscore emp2 is how much? 4 records I got. Done. Now I'll say what? Clear T underscore emp1. I'm clearing which record now? Which one I'm clearing? T underscore emp1. It clears what? Body. So see now. Earlier when I used clear, it was clearing the header part. Now I'm using clear in the same internal table, but I'm using the symbol. It refers to what? Body. So when I execute, yes, number of records in T underscore emp1 after clear is what? 0. Understood? I clear the data from what? T underscore emp1. But my T underscore emp2 has got 4 records now. Keep this as it is. Now what I'll do, I'll create one more internal table, data T underscore emp3 type table of T underscore what emp1. I created one more internal, what is that? Type table of, what is the type name? Sorry, ty underscore emp. Done. Save it, check it, no errors, done. Okay, done. Now let me count the number of records in emp3. Describe table T underscore emp3. Number of records in T underscore emp3 is so and so. As of now, this T underscore emp3 is what? Blank. So I'll get 0 na. So if you scroll down, yes, what is that? Number of records in what? T underscore emp3 is what? 0. emp2 has got records now, 4 records. I want to copy the data. Earlier, how did I copy the data from one into another interval? Append lines of. Now, from T underscore emp2, I want to copy to what? T underscore emp3. So I'll say T underscore emp3 like this. So what this will do? It copies the data from emp2 to what? emp3. Let me check it now. Okay, number of records in T underscore emp3 after assigning what? T underscore emp2. So I should get what? 4 records. Let me check it. Yes, number of records in T underscore emp3 after assigning T underscore emp2 is what? 4 records. Done. So my T underscore emp2 has got what? 4 records now. Right. Now earlier to clear the data from the body, what is the statement I used? Clear statement. Now I'll say, see the technique. I'll say refresh. Refresh T underscore emp2. Let me count the data now. Let me count the data in T underscore emp2. Number of describe table emp2. Number of records in T underscore emp2 after refresh. After refresh on T underscore emp2. So refresh also will clear the complete data. So as you clear the data, scroll down and check. Yes, number of records in T underscore emp2 after refresh on T underscore is what? 0. Data got cleared. Now in T underscore emp3, I'm having how many records? 4 records now. I want to clear that also. So I'll say now, just try to understand. Uline, I'll say free now. Free T underscore emp3. Let me count it now. Number of records in T underscore emp3 after free on what? T underscore emp3. Okay, done. Let me save it, check it. When I execute, T underscore emp3 also is having how many records? 0 records. So what I am trying to show here is I can clear the data from the internal table. I can clear the data from the internal table using what? 3 ways. What is that I used? Clear. What else I used? Refresh. I used what? Free. Okay. Yeah. Any doubts? Sorry. Okay. So
For copying, what is that we use, Sridhar? I mean,
where?
for
Yeah.
copying the data from one table to other table.
Yeah. One is by using what? Append lines
Okay.
of. Append lines of. This is one way. Another way is what?
Is it
Just by using
equal
assignment operator. Assignment operator.
to?
So what I'm trying to show is there are many ways, not only these two ways, there are many ways of copying the data from one internal table to another internal table. There are many ways of clearing the data from the internal table. So as of now, let us focus on this part. For clearing, you can see from T underscore EMP1, I have to use this body symbol because this T underscore EMP1 is an internal table with a default data. Na? If I don't use this symbol, this clear will refer to header. But since I want to refer to the body, I must use this symbol. Then what I used a refresh and what? Free statement. For clearing the data, I can use refresh and free also. Here, refresh and free always refers to body. Refresh and free always refers to body. Okay. So, but in case of clear, since I want to refer to the body, I must use this symbol because it is having both header and what? Body. But T underscore EMP2 and EMP3 doesn't have any header. It contains only body. Even if they contains header also, I need not use this symbol because refresh and free always refers to what? Body. So I'm trying to say that there are three ways of clearing the data. There's one more way also that we'll discuss later on. As of now, we have clear, refresh and free. So what is the difference between this? Clear can be used on what? Normal variables for clearing the data. I can use a clear statement on what? Work area. I can use a clear statement on what? Internal table. Whereas refresh can be used only on what? Internal table, and free also can be used only on what? Internal table. So when I say only on internal table, when I say only internal, it refers to what? Body only. Now what is the difference between refresh and free? Refresh, what it will do is it will clear the internal table but doesn't deallocate the memory, whereas free will clear the data as well as deallocates the memory and gets the internal table to initial state. Suppose I assume that as of now my internal table is having 1000 records. For this 1000 records, some memory will be allocated internally. Assume that some 10 KB of data is allocated for this internal table. So when I say refresh, what it will do? It clears what? 1000 records. It will clear what? 1000 records, but doesn't what? Deallocate memory. Means what was the previous memory of the internal table? What is the previous memory? 10 KB. Now the 10 KB will be as it is but without any data. But what this free will do, it clears this 1000 records, clears 1000 records, and what it will do, deallocates the memory and gets internal table to initial state. Initial state means what? Initially there were no records, so at that time there is no memory allocated, so it gets the internal table to what? Initial state. So memory management wise, which is recommended to use free statement. Understood? So when I clear the data, I don't require the memory also to be as it is. So it should be cleared. It should be deallocated. So performance wise, free is what? What recommended to? It is better than what? Refresh, because free will clear the data as well as deallocates the memory and gets the internal table to what? Initial state. Whereas refresh will only clear the data, doesn't deallocate the memory. That is the difference. So what is the difference between clear and this refresh free? Clear can be used on any other variables. I can use it in a normal variable. I can use it in a work area and internal table. Here also, clear doesn't deallocate the memory. It is also similar to what? Refresh. It will only clear the data but doesn't deallocate the memory. Okay. And we have seen two ways of copying the data between two internal tables. One is append lines of. This is one way of copying the data. Another is by using what? Assignment operator, which will copy the data from body of this internal table to body of what? T underscore EMP3. Okay, so we are trying to understand different statements that can be used on the internal table. What are the statements? Append statement, loop statement, describe statement, clear statement, refresh statement, free statement, and append lines of statement. Any questions for today? Please ask me. But again, it is recommended not to create the internal table with header. Okay, so tomorrow onwards, always you'll create the internal table without header only. You'll see the advantage going forward. Okay, this is option available, but recommended practice is always created without header. So what is the reason behind that? We are understanding from the next class onwards. Any questions for today? Please ask me. Right? So I'll try to share this recording today. Okay, by end of the day, refer to that. And Vasant, I saw your mail. I'll reshare it. I don't know what is the reason. I'll reshare all the
Yeah,
recording.
yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. What about others? You are able to access the recordings, or you are having any issues? Anyone tried opening the recordings? You are able to open, nah? Okay. No issues, right? Okay. So I'll try to reshare for everyone once again. So I don't know what is the problem. Okay. Right. So tomorrow we'll see other statements supported in internal table, and from day after tomorrow, what we'll do is we will fetch the data from database. We will never create the internal table manually. In this case, I created the data manually just to understand the different statements. But most of the time, we will fetch it from what? Database only. So probably from day after tomorrow, I'll be starting with the database programming also. Yeah, Syed, what is your query? Font size, that you need not worry. See here, somewhere you'll have the option somewhere here. Go to. 1 second. One second. Where is it available? I forgot.
I think this is at the last icon, Sridhar, probably
1 second. 1 second.
this side help.
Yeah, that is there, but that is shortcut. 1 second. Here also, yeah. See, Syed. Yeah, correct. Here you can see. Here also layout option is there somewhere. Okay. See, Syed, on the what standard toolbar. Okay, this is nothing but the standard toolbar. Here we have what customize local layout. Okay, so if you click on this, right, in this you'll have what options. Okay, go to options. Okay, so here you have what font settings. You'll have font settings. Choose this, and here you select the font like this. Select the font here. Right, I repeat this on the standard toolbar. On the right hand side, you'll have what customize local layout. Click on this and choose options. Okay, choose what font settings. Here you can select required font. Okay, this is one thing. Another thing is when you're working with the ABAP editor, you can, if you go to set utilities settings, okay, make sure that you are in the new editor. Okay, if you choose the utilities settings, make sure that you choose a new editor. Suppose if I choose old editor, if I choose front end editor old, okay, you'll get something like this. Means the keywords are not highlighted in blue color. So if you want to differentiate between the what the reserved keywords and your words, choose work in what new editor. So choose the menu utilities settings and what front end editor new. And for increasing the font, go for this. Sayed, you're asking this only, na? Sayed, are you there? Ah, okay. Right. So I'll stop now. I will continue tomorrow. Rajesh, I saw your WhatsApp message just now. Just wait for 2-3 days, Rajesh. Once
Thank
I
you, sir.
once I discuss this retrieving the data from database, okay, within this week only we'll see how to evaluate the performance by using that runtime analysis. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm following a different sequence compared with the earlier batch. Okay, so don't worry, I'll cover this at the earliest run.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other doubts, others?
I wanted to ask you offline. I have one thing, not related to this one. I have some other things.
Yeah, yeah. We
So
can.
you let me know.
You can call me, Partha, after this session. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Sure then. So I'll wind off. We'll continue tomorrow then.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vasant, you have any questions?
Sure. No
No, no.
questions. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, fine.
No.